Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. Thank you for joining me. Wherever you're joining me, rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. And if you're joining me on the YouTube channel, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. Happy Monday to all of you out there. If you did not have a great weekend, don't worry. A few more days, you'll be right back there again, and you can try to make next weekend better. I had an okay weekend. It wasn't the greatest weekend. I got an opportunity to cover the ACC championship game for the Athletic. Shout out to the Athletic, and all of those great people there. Nando, he's the man. But you know, I'm on a budget. I'm not out here balling, so I drove up to Charlotte from Savannah on Saturday morning and turned around and drove right back home Sunday morning. I was probably in Charlotte all of, I don't know, maybe 16 hours. So not necessarily the greatest trip in the world. I didn't even get a chance to go and hang out in Charlotte. When I got in, I went secured the lodging, drove back downtown, and when I was driving downtown to try to find a place to park in my parking spot, which was right next to the stadium, they had all of the streets blocked off, and it was packed down there. I mean, anybody that says that they weren't worried about the ACC championship because neither one of those teams were going to play for a national championship and make the college football playoff, don't tell that to Clemson and North Carolina fans. They were out partying. There were bands on the street and pop-up tents everywhere and tailgating. It was a fantastic event that I watched from my car because I had to drive around for an hour and a half, almost 2 hours, trying to get to my parking spot. Once I got to my parking spot, I needed to get inside and start getting that content, content for you, content for me, content for the people. And by the time we left, because we were waiting on the coaches to come for the press conference, by the time I left, there was almost 2 in the morning. Woke up in the morning, drove right back home. So not the greatest weekend as far as being able to have some fun and relax and all that other stuff, but I did enjoy going to the ACC championship game. It turned out to not really be the greatest game, but we saw some really good talent. The future's bright for both of those teams. You know what else happened over the weekend? Jackson State won the SWAC championship for the second year in a row. They also said goodbye, or at least their head coach said goodbye to Jackson State. Deion Sanders officially took the head coach job at Colorado. Now, I'm not going to get into what I think about the Colorado job or what I would have done if I was Deion, because at the end of the day, I'm not Deion. I did not curate a lifestyle that allowed me to move the way that Deion moves. I am, however, extremely surprised at the comments from him. And for the record, people that I know and people that I love, my own brother just said he wanted to say F him. But I can't have any shame or any malice towards what the man did. And I'm not talking about him going to another, going to a PWI over staying at an HBCU. I'm not here to get all into that. I'm also coming from the standpoint of somebody that did not go to an HBCU. So I get it if some people are So I understand if somebody feels a type of way about how all this has gone down, if you've gone to an HBCU. If you want to be upset. It's cool. All right. But this idea that Deion Sanders used HBCUs is hilarious to me. And I really don't care what other people think about it. Like, it's hilarious to me. Deion Sanders, primetime, arguably the best defensive back in the history of the game, and the person who has done more than so many others to curate his ability to resonate. He needed the HBCUs. Now, here's what I think. I think that it was a perfect marriage. Deion Sanders wanted to coach in college. The Power 5 level, which is the level he wanted to be on, the Power 5 level would not give him that opportunity. So he went and took the opportunity that he could. That was at Jackson State. He didn't go and take over the best HBCU in all of HBCUs. He took over Jackson State. And if you know anything about Mississippi, especially Jackson, Mississippi, and you know anything about Jackson State's football team at that time over the last, let's say 10 years, they haven't been good. Jackson, Mississippi is not the greatest place in the world to live. They got air quality issues. They've got water issues. They don't want to put any money into the city. There are all types of issues at Jackson. So it is what we call a symbiotic relationship. It's not parasitic. He didn't feed off Jackson State. They both benefited. Isn't that what life should be? Life should be two entities coming together and both elevating. Right now, if you type in Jackson State in any social media search bar, you're going to see that name pop up over and over and over and over again. If you type HBCUs in on social media bars, it's going to pop up over and over again. They're trending. You know why they're trending? They're trending because he was there. Does he get the job at Colorado if he never goes to Jackson State? No. So yes, he benefited. But Jackson State benefited as well. And now that he's gone, you know what Jackson State has? They have new practice facilities. Those practice facilities aren't going to get erased because he's gone. They have a new locker room. That new locker room is not going to get erased because he's gone. They're building a new football facility. That new facility isn't going to get washed away because he's gone. We spent so much time being negative, and we spent so much time talking about the negatives of Coach Prime leaving that we don't bother to talk about all of the positives that the man did while he was there. You know what this sounds like? It sounds like a bad relationship, it sounds like a relationship that ends. And one person ended it, and the other person didn't want it to end. You know the relationship. You've probably been in a relationship. I can tell you, I'm not ashamed of it. I was in a relationship where it ended, and I was not the one that wanted it to end. And at the first, all I could do is focus on the hurt that I felt because that person was no longer going to be in my life. And it was crippling. It was crippling because the subsequent people that I met after that relationship, the women that I met after that relationship, they all got treatment based off of what the last one did. They all got treatment based off of me trying to avoid what the last one did. It wasn't until I changed my mindset, right? And this is true. Laugh if you want. I'm cool with it. This is true. I stopped thinking about the one bad, which was her leaving. I stopped thinking about that one bad. And I started focusing on all the good, on all the great times we had, on all the things that she had done for me, on all of the things that I had learned, on the ways that I had grown while she was in my life. And as I started to do that, I gained clarity. Why would I sit back and be focused on all this negative-ish? Why sit back and be focused on all the negative when there's so much positive to bring? So I started focusing on the positives that she had when I started, interacting with the women that I met. And lo and behold, the relationships got better. I was able to communicate what I needed better. See, if things go down after Coach Prime leaves, you can't blame Coach Prime. What you have to do is you have to look into what the school did after Coach Prime left. The most eyes on you right now at Jackson State. There's no reason why Jackson State should not bring in another big name. If they don't bring in another big name, that's on them. If you just go and say, oh, well, we don't want what happened to Coach Prime to happen to us again, right? We don't want what happened with Coach Prime to happen to us again. So we're going to go and get a coach that wants to be here for the long term, for 10 plus years, 20 years. If you get a coach that is not looking to advance, then you don't have a hungry coach. And when we're not hungry, what do we stop doing? When we're satisfied, fellas, what do we stop doing? We stop chasing. We stop going afterwards. If you can bring in Coach Prime, an unconventional hire, why can't you bring in another one? And for me, so that you don't say I'm giving you like problems without solutions, I can give you a name right now that you should go that Jackson State should go out there and get and keep this thing popping. Ed Reed. And once again, I'm telling you, I didn't go to an HBCU. I didn't. But here's the problem, right? What have any of you done? What have any of you done to raise the profile of an HBCU? Because we've got the numbers. We've got the numbers, right? If you're selling a product as prime time, right? And you say, I need to be here. I need to go here. You're selling here, right? You're selling here. And no, by the way, he did not go to Jackson State just to help his son. His son was already committed to go to a higher profile school than Jackson State. He was already committed to FAU. FAU is a group of 5 team. It is not an FCS school. He actually went to a lower level football team. FCS is here. FBS is here. It's not Power 5, but it's group of 5. That's where Shedeur was already there for. He didn't just go to help his son. What do you mean he was not playing? He never went there. See, people got information, but y'all can argue with the God. This is what I do. This is what I do. So I'm gonna keep it a buck with y'all. If Prime goes to Jackson State and he's trying to win big, and he knows that in order to win big and bring in the talent that he needs, he's got to be able to market the school. So that's what he did. And guess what? He's not wrong. Everything he said was right. You can go to an HBCU and still be looked at. You can go and be at an HBCU and represent. It's funny to me though, right? Some of the best attendance of the year for every HBCU team was when they played Jackson State. For every HBCU team, the best attended game was when they played Jackson State, which means that those fans were only attending games based off of Coach Prime and Jackson State being there. When they weren't playing Prime and Jackson State, those fans weren't going to games. Even at Jackson State, it says 18% of alumni are giving back. 18% of the alumni are giving back. If only 18% of the alumni are giving back, then how do you support? These are all things that, how about the fact that as hard as people are going at Coach Prime for leaving Jackson State, how about you go at the government that owes HBCUs billions of dollars? Tennessee State alone is owed over $500 million. How about y'all go after these government entities that are supposed to be given the Pell Grants and make sure that these HBCUs are getting their Pell Grants on time? But nobody bangs the table on that. Not the way they're banging on Coach. If the amount of vitriol, if the amount of scrutiny, if the amount of nastiness from Black people on Deion because he just went and took another football job, if you did that and you put it on these entities that are being run by people that don't look like you and held them accountable for the stuff that they haven't done, then maybe there wouldn't be any issues at HBCUs that might turn people off to an HBCU. Right? What else did y'all want Prime to do while he was there? Hey man, don't come to the HBCUs because I'm eventually going to leave. What did y'all want him to do? Y'all wanted him to just say, hey, don't come to HBCUs while I'm here? Y'all wanted him to just like leave it as it. Listen, be upset. Be upset. Y'all been upset all weekend. Be upset. But at some point, give that man his flowers for what he did in the 3 seasons he was at Jackson State. I defy any school not named Jackson State to go on a 3-year run like Jackson State has gone on. Go on a 3-year run See, because people think it's just the kids, and I think it's funding. It's money. Money rules the day. Why are HBCUs losing the talent to PWIs? Because they can't compete financially with the PWIs. Why? Because they're not getting the money that they're supposed to get. The same money that these PWIs are getting, these HBCUs are not getting. All we got to do is pick up a newspaper or a book. It's telling us. But we want to put all of the focus on Prime and being negative towards Prime. That man is a football coach. He got into this to be a football coach. Did he say he wanted to uplift HBCUs? Yes, he did. What has he done in the 3 years? He's uplifted HBCUs. What did he say he wanted to do? He said he wanted to raise the profile of Jackson State. Guess what? He raised the profile of Jackson State. Again, new practice facility, new locker room, new football stadium coming. That's 3 major things in 3 years. And he was kicking his own bread back. He was kicking his own bread back. You can be upset all you want, but at some point, I'm going to need y'all to pull those flowers out. And if you don't, that's cool. If you don't, that's cool. Just know it's going to be really hard to attract the talented people. It's going to be really hard to attract the ones that have the same level of cachet as Prime has if they know you're going to kick their back in when they move on. I'm telling you, you don't want the person who's the lifer. You don't want the person who's the lifer. You always want somebody that's constantly looking to improve, because that keeps the fire going. And then you just welcome the next person in. Appalachian State lost a coach every single year for 4 years straight. And they were still one of the best teams in their conference, if not the best. That's because they understand, hey, we might not be the forever destination, but we're going to continue to keep bringing in. We're going to continue to keep bringing in those guys that want to elevate our program for as long as they're here, until they make themselves the level where somebody says, I don't want to leave. Or it's just too good for me here to leave. Clearly, that wasn't the case with Coach Prime. So we can mourn losing him and celebrate him being there at the same time. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But I don't ever want to I don't ever want to get in the way of a good tearing down of a person. So continue to go ahead and hate. Coach Prime is going to finish out his job at Jackson State because that's what he said he was going to do. He's going to finish out the job at Jackson State. I'm pretty sure he wants to end on the Celebration Bowl victory because that's what he's going to do. He brought in tons of talent. He's not going to take all of them with him. You know his son's going. He's already said that. He said he actually said his son and about 10 more. But he's brought in a bunch of talent. Their receiving core alone is like 8, 9 deep. The quarterbacks that they have backing up Shedeur are actually good quarterbacks. Really good quarterbacks. Let's see who they bring in next. I'm going to tell you who my guy is. The guy who I think they should bring in Ed Reed. Ed Reed's a guy who might not go anywhere because Ed Reed's a guy who is comfortable in his own skin and just being who he wants. I think it's great. I think Ed Reed's the way. But y'all go on out there. Shout out to my brother who's blowing up my Facebook timeline. Shout out to Jerome Parham, who's normally a diabolical hater, and he still, seems to be diabolically hating, but not as much as Shimeon is for sure. But shout out to both of those. I love y'all guys. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. Do this thing a few times a week. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. If you're joining me on the YouTube channel, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. Till next time, peace.